Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week, along with my favorite fellow felonious fellatio I'm trying to think of like F words to go
Fellatio
with our
tourist.
H
Nice.
words. I don't know. Along with my wonderful husky hairy huggable homos and friends, we review movies either current or classic on this show, and we're coming at you with something very much in the current column, but like also kind of classic question mark. We are reviewing Wonka, the prequel movie to Willy Wonka and the Charlie Factory, the Chocolate Factory. Um, Lot to talk about with this film. Seems like you either love it or hate it. I haven't seen a lot in between, but I can't wait to hear what Jim and Will, and I just spoiled their appearances on the show. Whoops, have to say about this one. I know, right? I know. But let me go ahead and introduce you to them so that we can get past the spoiler thing with their appearances. Jim Pugliafco was with us on the show. How you doing, sweetheart?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here. Glad for my surprise appearance on the show. But here I am. I'm looking forward to talking about this movie with you guys.
Surprise!
I
Welcome.
know. Look at me. I'm here.
And William Lindis is also here. Welcome, Will. How are things in Austin, Texas?
Hey, surprise, everyone. The three hosts of tonight's show are our three hosts of the podcast. And I can think of no better three people to be in exactly this place at exactly this time, exactly 11 years after another important time. This is an exciting episode for us, right, Brad?
It is an exciting episode for us because 2 days ago, relative to when we're recording, and 11 years ago, the Movie Bears podcast came into existence with its very first episode, all the way back in December of 2012. My God, do I feel old right now? Our very first show came out. Kind of crazy. This is episode 494 of the Movie Bears podcast. We're almost in sync with our 11-year anniversary and our 500th episode. But with 500 coming in just a few short weeks, it was like, do we really want to do two giant rah-rah things so close to each other? We'll save the main celebration for episode 500 because that's kind of a huge milestone. But we didn't want to let the date pass without just, I mean, I'm not wearing a hat, but if I were, I would tip it. To all of you for supporting us for the last 11 years, you've tuned in week after week, year after year after year. It kind of amazes me to hear from folks who've been listening to the show ever since we sounded like really bad NPR imitators. They've hung with us that long, and we're still part of their daily commutes and their time at the gym, and we just love all of you for sticking with us the last 11 years. Thank you so much. And Jim and Will, it's been wonderful doing this with you fellas. I'm fucking out. Goodbye. Enjoy the rest of the show, but it's been real.
That's the real surprise. That's the real spoiler.
Can you imagine if not only did he drop that, but also just like he hit the eject button on
But happy 11 years, fellas. It's been a good long run and more to go.
Yeah, it's
kind
exciting.
of crazy to think back on it.
I think that, like, we've gone through a lot of different iterations of this show, right? We went through our pre-recorded Skype days where we were wooden and robotic, and to our modern days where we're less wooden and robotic. Or we've kind of figured out our pattern, our cadence. We pushed our way through the COVID years. We've pushed our way through a bunch of stinkers. We pushed our way through a lot of gyms, a lot of great film festivals, a lot of wonderful like top 10 lists that we've generated, and tons of great guests over the course of the show's history. All of those are great little milestone moments, and I wouldn't trade a single one of them. I'd maybe trade some of like the frustrating tech difficulty nights when like the streaming platforms don't like to work as well as they'd like them to. But no, I mean, this is such a blast to do, and Thank you, the two of you, for being along on this ride with me, and for all of you listeners for being on the ride with all of us. This is such a hoot.
Yeah, I mean, it's 11 years. It's almost time to like retire and start thinking about opening a chocolate factory or something.
Oh, goodness. Indeed. I mean, if you think about it, the last 11 years have really kind of been an unexpected journey for us, which kind of lines up with the first movie we ever reviewed on the show, which was The Hobbit, an unexpected journey. So there you go. We no longer have Hobbit movies or Star Wars movies to review during our anniversaries. This year it's Wonka.
Or Hunger Games movies.
Or Hunger Games movies. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those got us through a few years of anniversaries.
Yes.
And now we're kind of out in the wild fields of whatever randomness we get.
Those were a
the
big
week
deal
this
at one
falls.
time, right? Those Hunger Games movies. And we just had one this year. Granted, I think we all pretty much liked it, but it wasn't it didn't seem like an event movie, really. Like some of those other ones were.
Well,
Maybe it's just been too long.
Barring anything getting changed between now and then, let's just sort of like map ahead kind of to 2024, right? If I'm looking at the end of the year 2024, there's a Karate Kid movie on the schedule. There's The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, which is
rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah, it sure does. I know absolutely nothing about that. Mufasa the Lion King, and Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And then there's also Wicked Part 1 coming out around Thanksgiving. So there's some things that might land, because none of those things are going to come out exactly when things are going to shift between now and then. So, but those are the ones that we might be talking about going 12 years, guys. I can't believe that we've been reaching for those rings for 12 years, just like Sonic the Hedgehog reaching for those rings. Yeah, we're gonna work on our puns now, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we better get out of it. Anyway, well, thank you again, listeners, for being part of our unexpected journey over the last 11 years. We do this show for fun. Who knows when we'll stop doing the show? It could be next week. It could be 12 years from now. Who knows? But love having y'all along for the ride, especially Mr. Jeff in the chat, who says, "Hey, handsome guys." Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Back at you.
Thanks for coming, Jeff.
Glad to have you here.
So what you're saying, Brad, is like we've been doing this for 11 years. We should be getting our silver YouTube plaque anytime now, right? I think that's like 100,000, 100K followers or subscribers.
I think that's what it means, right?
Yeah, we don't have anything close to that. I think we have like 500 subscribers or something. But the problem is, look, we do this for fun. We don't do this for monetization. We don't do this to like jerk ourselves off on YouTube and become super popular.
No, we do that on other platforms.
Well, that's what those are for. But I mean, we just do this for the love of movies and hanging out and chatting. But YouTube, if you did want to send us something cool, I mean, hey, let us know.
Wait, get the cardboard. We get the cardboard.
Someone's at the door. YouTube? No, sorry.
Oh,
yeah, it was actually it was Vine. They came by and said, "You guys want to come over to us?" And I turned them away. I said no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least it wasn't the MySpace carolers. They're top 8 going door to door.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, listen, we got a big movie to talk about this week. How do you fellas feel about getting to the nuts and bolts of the show with our movie review?
I'd rather get to the nuts and nougat.
Oh,
yeah. Nuts and shoes.
Nuts and shoes. Ooh, there you go. That's a good one. I like it. I'm sure there will be more candy puns. We'll figure them out. But listen, if you have not yet seen Wonka, don't worry. We're going to talk about the movie spoiler-free for about 10 minutes before we open things up to spoilers. And we'll give you very, very advanced warning before we do that. We're not like those podcasts that are like, all right, spoilers. Vomit everywhere, and you don't have a chance to step away or protect yourself. we value your ability to protect yourself. We'll help you out. But all of that said, hang out with us if you want to hear our initial thoughts. And of course, don't forget the live chat or the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts too as we go. All of that said, here we go. Our review of Wonka. All right, so Will, do us a favor, if you don't mind, handsome friend. Give us the brief setup. What the F is Wonka? And what did you think? Is it worth seeing in theaters, waiting for streaming, skipping entirely? Where'd you come down?
Yeah, so Wonka is a new film directed by Paul King. He's the director that gave us the Paddington movies, and starring Timothy Chalamet as Wonka himself in a sort of prequel-ish type film that follows a young, down on his luck, without a penny to his name, Wonka, as he arrives in the big city to embark on his quest to become the world's best chocolatier out of the love of chocolate. Along the way, he meets a few friends who are also in a similar situation to him that have to improve their lot in life while being pitted against some other chocolatiers who maybe hold the reins to let's just say, like, the reins to their capitalistic hellscape a little bit too tightly to their vest. This is a movie that I think is absolutely betrayed by its trailers. And the reason for it is I went into this one not super excited, and I ended up really liking this movie. And I feel like I put out something on social media to sort of get a feel for just some people on my feed, and I got almost universal response of like, trailers looked awful, movie was a lot of fun. Trailers looked awful, movie was a lot of fun. And that's so baffling that this movie got the trailer so wrong. This movie it's Paul King has made, at this point, I think, two of the best like family films like ever made in the Paddington movies. Like, and this is not of that same caliber. You know, there's parts of this that are a little bit messy. But goddamn, this is fun. I think all the characters really step into play and are charming, are sweet, are fun to spend time with. This movie is a musical, and that's something else the trailers do not do any favors on. If you're expecting just sort of a light tune here and there, you're in for a surprise, because this movie is not sung all the way through, but this movie always builds to its next set piece, to its next song, its next dance sequence, its next bit of whimsy. This movie is sort of a warm hug. It's a very cozy movie. It's maybe a bit of an empty calorie in terms of movies, but it still fills you up when you need it to. And I think there's value in that. Is this one going to be at the end of my list, end of year lists? Probably not, but did I enjoy this movie? Yeah, I did. I had fun with it. So, yeah, it's a recommend for me. I think it's a lot of fun.
All right, Will, thanks so much for that setup and for sharing your thoughts. We've got a live comment from Jack in the chat who said that his audience, there were plenty of families there, but mostly older people his age, being 50 plus, who had seen the first couple of movies. Raises a question for me, and we can certainly talk about it, but I'm wondering, how many people this was their first exposure to Willy Wonka. People who are under 30 and probably didn't experience the original film the way some of us did. I don't know. I'd love to hear more about that. So if anyone out there in listener land, this was your first exposure to Wonka, let us know what you thought, what it was like. But while we wait for that, Jim, tell us a little bit about your experience. Hot stuff. What did you think of this film? How did it land?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to talk about like my experience with the first movie. It's been years and years and years since I've seen that film. Did not go back. I kind of wanted to watch the original film before going into this, but I didn't get a chance to. But from what I gathered from this movie and my memory of the first movie is that they seem like totally different tonally. to me. First of all, yes, there's music in the first movie. There seems to be much more music in this one, much more of a musical, as you said, Will. And this one seems like um, more caper slash plot driven to me than the first movie. The first movie was very weird. He opens his factory for the first time to this set of kids and families, and everyone's kind of going through and seeing all the weird stuff in this factory, and it's like there's really some crazy stuff in there, and it was more of like a fantastical adventure movie than this one is. This one feels like almost like this is a plot driven caper type movie with a big villain, or let's say villains, I guess, in this film. Maybe, yeah, definitely more. And I think that's because I think that's the way current movie audiences are kind of groomed, right? You got to have their big villain. You have the hero, you got to have a villain. This felt like that in a way, like it was made around that formula, and we'll just stick some weirdness around them and try to and I think that for me it just lost its core weirdness and wildness that it had. The cast I think is okay. I'm not sure Chalamet is the right feel for the new Wonka, the younger Wonka. Maybe. I mean, we don't get to see. We don't. In the first movie, we start out with Willy Wonka as a kind of I guess young man, 30-year-old or whatever he is when that movie starts. So we don't get to see him young, and this movie tries to fill that gap. For me, this is a definite. I hate to dissuade anybody from going to the movies these days, right? We need movie theaters. We need the movie theaters to survive. We need movies to do well. But this movie makes it hard for me to stump for films. Look, a lot of people are loving this movie. Will, I know you really liked it more than you thought you would. I just didn't. I just thought it didn't click for me. And I would say this is a good one if you watch the original movie or you're interested in this one. I would say this is a kind of wait for streaming for me. It just didn't. There was a lot of it that didn't work. I always love, Sally Hawkins was in this movie kind of as an emotional touchstone, I will say, more than a performance. But every time she's in something, I love Sally Hawkins. I wish she was in this more. I wish there was more of him, of his early life before he tried to start the chocolate thing, rather than getting into the plot of this film pretty quickly. The stuff I saw in the trailers with, we saw Hugh Grant in the trailer as an Oompa Loompa. When we saw that in the trailer, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. But to be honest, his stuff was probably the stuff I had the least, that I was kind of the most interested in. At least I was interested to see what he was going to do on screen. I thought the rest of it was just kind of a little bit laid flat for me and didn't work. The main character, her name was Noodle in the movie. She's fine. I didn't find her super interesting, and just some of the line deliveries and stuff seemed very, it's, me and child performances. Like if she seemed like one of those precocious child performances straight out of central casting. And it, again, that I didn't connect with her story and her character. So yeah, for me, this is a wait for streaming.
All right, Jim, thank you for sharing those thoughts. Doesn't sound like it hit super strong for you, but
No.
maybe worth seeing, when it's available on one of the streaming services.
Brad, what did you think? I mean, tell us if you are have you already bought the soundtrack or whatever?
Of course, that being an in joke to anyone who's watched over the last 11 years, my barometer of is the movie good or not, I guess, is whether I
Musicals,
bought the
yeah.
soundtrack. Musical films. Will, something you said about the marketing for this kind of struck a note with me. And full transparency, I saw it on your Facebook your Facebook post first, but you reminded me of it. Yeah, this isn't really billed as a musical, and a lot of movies these days that are musical are sort of withholding that. I don't know if it's like fear that audiences aren't going to embrace it. It's going to chase people away. Um, but like, I kind of wish I knew it was a musical going in, because I would have not wanted to see it even more than I already didn't want to see it. And it might have cemented the decision for me and saved me a couple hours. I like musicals a lot. We have a whole wall in our living room devoted to all of the musicals we've seen. That said, those are good musicals with really catchy music, really great messages, a lot of emotional, like, heavy hitting songs, touchstone moments. None of the music in this film, except for Pure Imagination, which is from the first film, really tickled any of my fancies. I didn't really connect with the music at all. Um, I know they're going for like whimsy and, fantasy, and that's great. But I think like as a musical for me, it didn't land. I think additionally, the thing that I thought I was going to hate most going into this movie, I loved most. The thing that I thought I was going to love most, I ended up hating most. And those two things were Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa. I saw that in the trailer and was just like, good God, fucking kill me now. Do I really have to see him as an Oompa Loompa? And I loved his character. He was fun. I mean, he was probably one of the bright points of the film for me. The thing that I love most, Willy Wonka himself, I don't know. I like Timothy Chalamet as an actor, but I don't feel like I really connected with him as Wonka. And I don't feel like I could see, granted, it's a younger Wonka, but like I didn't see connective tissue between like young Willy Wonka and older Willy Wonka. Like, I don't know. It's like someone dressed up in Willy Wonka drag, but like not Willy Wonka himself. And so it was really hard for me, I think, to connect with that character. Unfortunately, he's the titular character. Everything revolves around him, and so it didn't land very well. It didn't really pull me much in. Some of the visuals were cool, but I actually want to talk about a standout performance for me that was very unexpected in terms of how much it tickled my fancy. And that is Tom Davis. He played, and I don't want to go into spoilers, but he plays one of the nefarious people who capture Willy Wonka in like this hotel scheme thing. And dude, bro, has got some fucking hairy legs. He's a hot bear. We see him in skimpy outfits.
A robe.
A robe. I was totally there for it. And he's got a sexy voice, and it was doing weird tingly jingly things in my nether regions. So very much appreciate Tom Davis in this film. Also fun to see Matt Lucas pop up. Obviously he has a varied history of things he's been in. Most recently, he was in Doctor Who a few years ago. He's been on the Great British Baking Show prior to this season. Really cool to see him show up in a major motion picture like this. Not even as just like a throwaway bit part character, but like, one of the trios of like chocolatier tyrants, I don't think he was the best of the three chocolatier tyrants, but still neat to see Matt Lucas show up. So overall for me, not a super great movie. Jim, you said maybe wait for streaming. I would even venture to say don't even bother unless you're like a huge Wonka fan or there's just nothing else to watch. But I don't know. I guess streaming probably feels right to me overall. It's a compromise. I certainly wouldn't spend $40 to go see this in theaters. But if it's on a streaming service you already pay for and don't have to go out of your way to watch, throw it on some Saturday when you're doing laundry, and there you go.
The whole musical thing is frustrating because we have a comment here. The upcoming Color Purple is a musical based on the Broadway musical. Thank you, Jack, for mentioning that. That if you look at the trailer for that movie, there is definitely like a song that's highlighted, but you don't get the like. It would be easy for someone to miss that that's an adaptation of the Broadway musical based off the trailer. Same thing with the Mean Girls movie adaptation that's coming out in January, like early January. That's a adaptation of the Mean Girls musical. And there's one moment in the trailer where it looks like they're doing like a little dance thing, but that's kind of it. And I think you're right. It's frustrating too, because musical movies are built into the DNA of film, right? If you think back to just gosh, like just decades and decades and decades of Broadway performances turned into movies, to animated kids movies that have musical elements, original properties that do the musical side of things. I don't know where this kind of like distancing itself away from the fact that there's songs in a movie exists, and again, it's frustrating, but I think it would have more aligned people with like what they were going to see. I think some people, like yourselves, may have been less inclined to go see it. I think there's some people who maybe would have been the target audience for this, who may have been more inclined to go see it too. Trailers should reflect kind of what the movie is, not sort of hide something, unless it's like a teaser trailer for some sort of big spoiler or whatever, and that's fair. But that part was frustrating. I do want to go back and mention like some of the supporting performances that really worked for me. You mentioned Tom Davis as Bleacher, and I always love Olivia Colman is sort of my one of those people. She shows up in a movie, I'm sold.
She's wonderful. Yeah,
she is so good here, and I had a much stronger. I really liked the young actress playing Noodle Calalane. I really liked her, and I really liked. I won't mention his character's name, but Patterson Joseph is playing more of an antagonist role. I guess he's the lead of the trio of and I think that there's something that is menacing without being menacing about that performance, and I think that's a cool way to do that one. I just really liked sort of spending time with these characters, and that's fun. Every time that Wonka got to experience a new villain or whatever, or a new antagonist or a new person that he was aligned with, I was excited to see kind of the way that they would fit into his little thing. Also, I can't stress enough, the chocolate in this looks so damn good. Like, there were so many places where they were eating little snacks and treats where I was like, man, should I order some M&Ms? Should I order some candy right now? And I was good, and I didn't. But because it's expensive. That's the big reason. I have a sweet tooth. But goddamn, I wanted to eat like half of the chocolates in this movie.
Some of them look really good, but some of them look really good. Some of them didn't even look edible. Like they look like plastic toys. Like, and then the flowers and all that stuff.
And they'd eat into them, and they crunched so hard and sharp it sounded painful to eat.
Yeah,
I have some real questions about the sound editing. But we have a couple comments in the live chat. Tom says, "Merry Christmas, kids!
Hey, Tom.
Happy holidays, Tom. Welcome.
Merry Christmas, Tom. Oh, oh, oh.
Hope you're doing well." Of course, recording this episode, it's like, I don't know, less than a week till Christmas at this point. Hanukkah's been a thing. Other holidays are ongoing. It is a merry time of year, made even more merry by Tom popping up on the podcast. So welcome. Good to see you. Yeah. And then John, delightful John from Denver, says, personally, I think they really just missed all of the characteristics that made the other two movies what they were. It felt so disjointed and unnecessary. Now, full disclosure, I did not see the Johnny Depp Wonka thing that came out. I've only seen
No.
the original Gene Wilder Wonka. Have either of you seen the Johnny Depp one?
I have.
If I did, I don't remember it.
Okay. Will, any thoughts on John? I mean, because I don't feel like I can comment since I haven't seen it, but was that one any good? Did it feel connective with this at all, or?
No, it's so the thing is all three of the movies feel a little bit standalone. Like none of them like if anything, I would say there's probably like a spectrum somewhere where you've got, especially if we're kind of looking at the like the Wonkas, you've got cynical, I mean, the kind of the cynical version that we've got in Gene Wilder. We've got kind of the Timothy Chalamet who is sort of seeking joy and
Mr.
seeking
Nice Guy.
whimsy, and then on the
Mhm.
other end you've got. So the way that Johnny Depp plays Willy Wonka is. Do you remember the way he played the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland?
Yes.
Okay, that. It's
Okay.
he was. I remember he
Crazy?
went on interview. Oh yeah, he went on interview, sort of saying that one of his the characters that he was trying to channel was sort of like mid to late popularity, like Michael Jackson. So just sort of that like kind of weird, kind of a reclusive energy, but then just sort of like kind of a little bonkers about things. It didn't work for me. I didn't like that one very much. But
Okay.
all three of them get three different, really different looks at all of these. So I think that the thing that if you're looking, I don't think of it as a franchise because all three of the films almost seem like complete reimaginings of, you know, or reimaginings of where to take like the book series or kind of these stories. I think it would take another film that more closely aligned with any of those three to really kind of cement what the tone of cinematic Wonka would look like, if that makes sense.
So I know we need to get to spoilers, but the last question I have then, just to dovetail off of that, Will, this movie to me felt like a prequel that was meant to catch up and kind of connect with the Gene Wilder film. But it sounds like what you're saying is this is really like a standalone, like reboot, new thing of its own, rather than being a lead into that.
I guess we have to see what comes next, right? Like, I think that this is one of those things where you've got a sort of a different cast of characters and a different sort of look at the way that this world is. So you could make another movie that really bridges them closely. You could make another movie that sort of veers off another direction. So it's like, I don't really know if I feel like it's conclusively in the same universe or conclusively not. It just feels like it's sort of just like another Wonka story, the same way like you know when you're watching I don't know, like two Bugs Bunny cartoons, you could conceivably think that he went from the one adventure to the next, or that those are two isolated adventures. But I kind of found the best way of like I didn't really I enjoyed it more kind of not thinking about it or letting that sort of impact me too much, because I don't think that that's where the film draws its strength, right? Now, again, if there's another film that comes out that is like, oh yeah, this is the one that is bridging it together and this is where it gets darker and more cynical, then I think that would be more conclusive. But as it was, I think this movie was just sort of its own thing.
We'll have to talk about that more when we get into spoilers, because I think the movie has a certain sequence where it very deliberately says, I'm a fucking Willy Wonka prequel movie leading in. Maybe we can talk about that and unpack that a little more. But guys, how are you feeling about spoilers at this point? Should we unchain ourselves so we can really get into the bulk of our discussion?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's take the wrapper off this.
All right. Listen, we're about to head right to the chewy caramel nougat center. We've had the chocolate in our mouths, like melting away while we've been talking, but it's time to get to the chewy goodness part. So if you haven't yet seen Wonka and you're concerned about being spoiled on the film, this is your chance to step away for the next 15 minutes or so. Come on back for plugs after those 15 minutes. If you're listening live, go make a sandwich, then come back in a little bit. If you're listening through the magic of digital tape delay on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., by the time you're listening to this, Jim will have put a time index in the show notes for you. Use that to go ahead and skip ahead as appropriate. Also, Jim, thanks for putting that time index in the show notes so
Happy
that people
to do
can
it.
skip ahead. All right, spoilers. They're officially happening. Here we go. Batten down the hatches. Where do y'all want to start?
Well, I guess we'll pick up where you left off, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It feels like there's something missing in between this movie. You know, if you think of this movie in terms of the original movie, right, and the original movie being some kind of a sequel to this movie, or this being a prequel to that, it feels like there's a piece missing. Like there's connective tissue that, at least just and I'm talking about just in terms of the main character Willy Wonka, right? Because in that he's, like you said, Will, he's kind of a reclusive, a little bit of a weirdo, eccentric, doesn't really deal well with people, right? He's more like a carnival barker, right? And not really the overall Mr. Nice Guy, at least till the end of the movie. But like he's this version starts out as like he's super kind-hearted and, you know, outgoing, and he's just like a totally different personality type. Now, does something happen to the character in between, or are they just two totally divorced universes that are not meant to connect up? I think that's what kind of took me out a little bit. Like this doesn't feel like the Willy Wonka persona that we know. And I know it maybe is unfair to judge this movie on that. I get it. You know, you have to judge it on its own merits, but based on its own merits, it just didn't have anything, you know, to draw me in like the original movie did, where you have this weirdo that you don't really think you like until the end of the movie, right? Where you start to like him more and you see him. This guy, you kind of everything, the cards are laid right on the table with this character right up front, and nothing really, you know, I don't know if there's an arc there for the character, to be honest. There's an arc for his career and stuff, but like, I don't know if there's a character arc at all for the main character.
Well, and that's kind of what I was alluding to in the pre-spoiler section. This movie has a sequence that is pretty much like a run-up to the original Willy Wonka movie. Like we see, you know, the castle and it's being transformed into the factory, and we see familiar settings from the factory come to be. And so that's what makes it feel, to me at least, like it's meant to be a prequel to that film and a setup. Are there stories they could tell to demonstrate for us, I guess, why Willy Wonka becomes jaded and more reclusive? Sure, I guess maybe we'll get those movies, but the connective tissue feels pretty deliberate in terms of connecting to that Gene Wilder movie. So Will, kind of to what you were talking about earlier, I definitely didn't get the sense that this was like a reboot standalone in its own universe with more to come. It seemed like more of a setup for the Gene Wilder film.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a reboot. I just think that for me, it kind of doesn't matter, I guess, in terms of like how deeply tied it is to the lore, because this is not a franchise that is concerned itself with the lore with its other films. Anyway, they all kind of exist as their own ways of telling these stories at different little epochs, you know? So whatever they do next with it, I think is valid. If it goes directly into the Wilder ones, cool. If they go a completely different route, I think that also works, right? So I think for me, it's less that I'm planting a flag on one way or the other, and more I'm planting a flag on it kind of doesn't matter to me, right? Now, one of the things that I do think does most closely connect to the Wilder movies is that there is another sort of plot line that goes through here, and that's capitalism bad, specifically greedy capitalism. We have a lot of the three big chocolatiers who are driving out business, who are the ones that are strangling joy and using chocolate as a means of profit, not as a means of celebration and happiness, right? And one of the things that we don't see at all in the Wonka story, I think I see a little bit more of like why, that character could become the way he is, right? We have one story that is, this is a man who is at the end of his career, who has been so frustrated by all of the attempts to like manipulate and raid his products and use them for kind of ill, that he's figured that he can only give his chocolate factory away to a child, and only through like the most elaborate weird means possible, versus a character who is at the very beginning of building his career. So what we don't have is the decades of, okay, well, now I've built this thing, now I have to maintain and grow this thing. The true arc of capitalism, right? It's why I'm honestly not super interested in a third, like another movie that bridges them together, because I don't want, like, there's an arc there that is, this is the movie about how a guy's business becomes slightly less joyful to him because of all of the shit that happens to him from the outside. And I don't know if I want to see that movie exactly with these characters. I'm kind of happy with just sort of seeing the bookends myself. And so I guess what I'm saying is I see more of that kind of that through line through, but also if they just wanted to go fucking buck wild with it and do something else weird, I'm also okay with that, because then we don't have to go through like the sour years of Wonka.
I'm totally down for like a much darker version of.
Yeah, you like dark shit.
Well, I mean, darker, but then you have kind of the arc to bring it back, from like to the original movie where his character gets redeemed a little bit. Maybe that could work. Who knows? We're writing movies that don't exist and may not exist. We don't know. I do want to say, I don't think any of the music. I mean, the music in this movie is fine. To me, it's not terrible. It might work somewhat in the moment, but it's not going to be memorable for me after the movie. I can't. Other than there was one song at the beginning about swish, or I forget.
Oh yeah. Swish, swish, bish. No. Scrub.
Yeah. But like, I don't think I'm going to remember much about the music in this movie. Also, I don't know, man. I was a little off put by the one police officer played by Keegan. What's his name?
Michael Key.
Yeah, Keegan Michael Key. About there were definitely fat. There was like laugh at the fat guy jokes in this movie.
Boy.
Which were kind of off putting. I don't know. Maybe audiences dig that shit, but just didn't work on me.
Yeah, it's fucking almost 2024 already. There are lots of other things we could do to make people laugh than punch down.
Make a character fat and have them roll
people.
around. Yeah. Or have them squeeze out of a car. Yeah.
Yeah, I would, in terms of like critiques that I have of the film, because I think there's value in like looking at kind of both sides of things. Like I would remedy some of that stuff. I didn't like and honestly, it was even less the fat suit stuff and more just that particular character's arc was a little flat in general. So the fat suit stuff like didn't help at all. But I think even if you got rid of that, I don't know that it's a better arc for the cop, right? Whereas I think at least the three chocolatiers, while they're meant to be a little two-dimensional in terms of what they are, I think their personalities work for what they are, because you kind of put them all together as one character, because they always appear on screen together, right?
I would have gotten rid of two of them. I didn't think the movie needed three bad guys, because the one main bad guy, Will, you mentioned who it was played by, who I thought it was really good in the role. God, what is his name? Oh, Patterson Joseph.
Oh, it's Slugworth. Yeah.
Yeah, he's good. But the other two guys, to me, were like, As much as I like Matt Lucas in other stuff, I thought he was not good here. Not very funny. Probably more cringe than funny in this film. And the other guy was kind of a big nothing burger too. I don't know why they needed three. I'm scratching my head over that, but
Well,
three is better than one, I guess.
it's been a hot minute since I saw Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but weren't those characters like
They may be.
part of that story?
They might.
So you know so I rewatched it pretty recently, which a couple of interesting things about that. One, yes, Slugworth is the all of the kids, and I forgot about this plot entirely, but after each kid gets the golden ticket, this man shows up and whispers in their ear something, and you find out
Right.
that it's Slugworth, or a representative of Slugworth who wants them to steal the everlasting gobstopper. And then at the end, you realize it wasn't really Slugworth's representative; it was Wonka's guy who was sort of like testing the kids. But they,
Okay.
yeah. So that was, And also, the other thing I did not remember as much. I always think about the movie in terms of there's a quick scene at the chocolate at the candy shop, and then he's in bed with his grandparents, and then he gets the golden ticket, and then he's off to the factory.
Yep.
And then the adventure happens at the factory. There's a lot of movie with several songs that happen before you even get to the actual chocolate factory. Ones that for whatever reason just like, oh yeah, I remember these, but like I always sort of like fast forward them out of my brain when I'm just thinking about like, oh, it starts at the gate when he does the little roll.
Right. Right.
So
yeah.
Another critique I'd put of this movie actually has nothing to do with the movie itself, and more to do with how do I put this? More to do with the fact that this movie was created by a company. This was the first Warner Brothers movie to kind of like come out sort of after the David Zaslav, like who's sort of taken over kind of the Warner Brothers, HBO Max, all of that, slashed and burned through just a bunch of properties just for profit. And it's a little weird to have a movie that is at its core about the joy of creating something is better than creating something for profit, to be created by a company by one of the grossest examples of like rampant, nasty parts of capitalism happening right now. So that's not the movie's fault. I think the director, I love what the director did with this here. I think the cast is all, having a lot of fun with doing exactly what this message is. But that did weigh on my brain a little bit. Just like, it's unfortunate that this was a Warner Brothers property with this exact message.
I will credit the movie with doing one very positive thing for me. It reminded me of my love of candy. Unfortunately, as a diabetic, I've mostly gotten away from like eating lots and lots of candy. I say unfortunately because I love candy. But we were in this very cool store after we saw the movie that just had all this different kind of candy. And the movie convinced me to go ahead and give in to my sweet tooth and buy some banana now and laters, which I haven't had in 20 years. They were my favorite when I was a kid, next to Milky Way dark candy bars. So I bought a few of these to treat myself over the holiday break.
Half a star added to the movie rating.
Yeah. What's funny is I was going to ask everyone, and I feel like that was sort of your answer. I was going to ask everyone as sort of like a denouement to like the review. What are some of our favorite candy bars or candies or something like that? So it sounds like those would those two be your answers, Brad?
Banana now and laters, absolutely, and Milky Way darks, slam dunk, totally.
Yep. Nice. What about you, Jim?
Will, you said that, I like when movies go dark. I like my chocolate dark too. I like almost anything, almost any dark chocolate stuff, and Almond Joys, which aren't dark chocolate, because you know how Almond Joy and Mounds, sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. It's the Mounds that have the dark chocolate. But the Almond Joys have the milk chocolate. I wish they were switched because I love. If I could get a dark chocolate Almond Joy, I would be in pig heaven. Like that would be great. But yeah, anything dark chocolate and nuts, I'm in for.
There you go. All right. Well, how about you? What are your favorite candies?
I am a hardcore chocoholic, like to the point where, like, I mean, it's difficult to choose just like one. You know, I'm of course a big fan of, like, I mean, s- I did not like Snickers growing up. Like, it was just like it was like
Me
it took
neither.
and then as an adult, I'm like, I think in terms of just, it's not always the candy bar I most want to have, but I think I can say that it is the most, like, well-made, balanced candy bar, like that most knows what it's doing with all of its parts. But man, give me a Butterfinger, give me Reese's Pieces. I'll sometimes take M&Ms and like pop them in the freezer and then kind of like, you know,
They're best cold. Yes, they
they're
are.
so good cold. They're so good cold. And then of course, I love going to, like, because of that, I'll go to like Dairy Queen or one of those like ice cream style places.
Where you can mix. Where you
where you get like a mix, a Blizzard or whatever like that. And what I'll get is I'll get the one with M&Ms in it so that they're cold. And then I'll also get chocolate sauce in it, so the ice cream becomes chocolate with chocolate M&Ms. Oh my god, I'm. It's a bit of a cliche, you know, like like, oh, give me chocolate, but god damn, I love it. So,
So, as someone who also loves M&Ms, but again is diabetic, they're expensive. But I found these at Walgreens of all places. Russell Stover makes sugar-free peanut M&Ms, and they're made with stevia extract. And you still don't want to have like 80 of them or anything because they'll make you shit your pants. But uh, they are very good if you want to take 15 of them in a baggie with you into a movie theater. You know, they're like the perfect movie snack.
I think you're holding out on me. I knew we had those Russell Stover things, the regular ones. I didn't know there were peanut ones.
There's like 5 other bags that I bought off Amazon down in the pantry right now.
Probably just never looked at it.
Sugar free. I told you about them when we got them, but you may have been like watching a movie or something.
I may have thought it was the same old ones, but yeah.
Maybe it's possible, but please help yourself. There's like 5 bags down there. We should take some to the cabin. That'd be great.
Yeah. But yeah, you can ask Brad when a box of candies come into the house, anything that's dark or with nuts is gone right away.
Oh yeah.
That's I'll just
I for a while, you know, so before surgery, Scott was you know, he's still diabetic, but you know, like he had to watch his sugar intake a lot more beforehand. So every year for Christmas, I would get these. There were these like sugar-free peanut butter cups, and those would be sort of his like treat in his stocking, you know, because he would love that. He loves those. Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, Tom in the chat says, Friendly's Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Sundae is a diabetic delight.
I want one of those.
Is that
right
something
now.
you buy in a store? Because where I grew up, Friendly's was an actual ice cream shop, like a ice cream and sandwich shop.
Yeah, it still is a restaurant and ice cream shop. Sort of like you can just go in and get, like, go through their drive whatever and just get like their.
I don't know where they are, but gotta find one.
It's on the list. We gotta track it down.
Friendly's, back to Friendly's. Yeah.
He says the original shop, not the supermarket. So there you go.
Okay.
All right. Well, we've been talking about candy for the last 10 minutes and not Wonka, which is maybe a little telling. I don't know. But, you know, even though the movie wasn't the greatest for me, I still had a fun time going out to see it. And
it hit with a lot of people too.
It did. A lot of people are
friends.
enjoying it. I think that's fantastic. A lot of people didn't even know it was a thing or that it was out, though. So again, you know, marketing being what it is, unfortunately just fails us sometimes. But with the holidays coming up, you might be looking for something fun to go see. This could be it. I don't know. Or maybe you just throw the original beloved movie on and call it a day. Wherever you come down, you know, some good discussion to be had, I think. So, but Jim, Will, speaking of other things that we love, we could end the show, but plugs
But
have got to be a thing.
Oh,
plugs.
yes,
Butt
Yeah.
plugs.
But
Yeah.
but plugs,
Yeah.
butt plugs,
Okay.
gotta
Got it.
happen, right?
yeah. You know, we got to squeeze the plugs in there.
We do. We absolutely do. So let's start with you, Jim.
Yeah.
Plugs, of course, being a part of the show where we put things we love on your radar. Jim, what do you want our listeners to know about this week?
Well, you give me an opening, and I'm going. My mic. There's a fairly good chance I'm going to come in with a documentary, right? And I've done that again on this show. No, it's not a documentary about butt plugs. Although, if I do find one, that would
I'd
be a
watch
great
that.
butt plug, right? Obviously,
It would. It totally
you'd
would.
love the symmetry of that. I know you would.
Well, and butt plugs are often symmetrical, so
They
it's
often
kind of
are.
a triple.
Yes.
Yeah.
No sharp edges. No. So, this is a documentary. It's currently available right now on Hulu. Kind of right up my alley. This is a documentary about a 26-year-old. You may have heard of this story. A 26-year-old American missionary. His name is John Chow. Was killed as he attempted to make contact with an indigenous group of people off the coast of India, an island called North Sentinel Island, actually. One of the last communities on the planet still living in isolation. So this island is a protected island that has a group of people living on it for many, many years that do not want any contact by outsiders. And other people have been killed approaching this island, basically shot with arrows, spears, whatever they have. There's been other movies about stuff like this too. And what made this movie fascinating, it wasn't necessarily about him visiting the island and getting killed, although that was featured in the movie. This is about what drove him to want to go to this island, knowing the dangers. He was a Christian missionary, and it was about the Christian ideology of colonialism, right? And having to convert everyone and seeing every group of people that's not Christian as, I hate this word, but savages, like unreligious, unfollowers, I guess, if you were, and having this, like, I don't know how to say it, almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? Privileged, like, arrogant attitude that we've got to convert these people to our Lord and Savior, our magical guy in the sky, as opposed to whatever else they might believe, right? Which is probably just as valid as Christianity. It's just crazy, like, how this guy was set up throughout his childhood and his upbringing, his schooling, to believe that, his word of whatever needs to be spread to these people. And he made it his mission to do this from a pretty early age, and he paid the price for it, ended up dead. Pretty fascinating documentary. It's called The Mission. It's available on Hulu right now. Check it out if you like this stuff. It's again, a true story, a rough story to watch because the ending going in, and you see him going down that path, and you're like, oh my God, this is really, really, really terrible. Somebody needed to step in and try to talk some sense into this guy and the people. And remember, there are people who are funding him. There are people who are guiding him and pushing him on this path. And they all, in the end, it makes you so mad because they all have his blood on their hands. So great documentary, The Mission. Check it out.
So I didn't watch the whole thing with you, of course. I was
Yeah.
playing some Baldur's Gate, and then I came downstairs, and I think I was about halfway through. But I sat down and I watched the rest of it with you. And I just remember thinking, like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Like, encouraging this guy to do this and, like, funding him to go on this mission. Like, this guy fucking knowing what he was. I don't know. It melted in my brain a little bit. But I think that's what a good documentary does, right? Like what I appreciated was the fact that like it wasn't trying to necessarily make me feel a certain way. It was just presenting the stuff, and like that stuff, like sparked a
Yeah.
reaction in me. So weird to like a documentary that made me angry. I mean, the parts of it I saw, but
Hey, it made you feel something. That's the
it
mark
did.
of a good movie to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So great butt plug, Jim. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, missionary and butt plug, I mean, they go right together. So,
Kind of.
Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
anyway. Oh goodness. All right. Well, what have you got this week?
I don't think I've talked about this one on the show, aside from the fact that I wrote something about it. I think I mentioned that I had written something on Poor Things, but I don't think I've actually talked about it here. So I'm going to talk about it because it's expanding theatrically. It's in more places than it was before. This is the new film by Yorgos Lanthimos. This is the dude that did Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Favorite and The Lobster. And this one stars Emma Stone as this woman who begins the film in this sort of black and white setting with a vocabulary of a couple of words, no real control over ability to walk, aside from just sort of like tottering and stumbling around. And the sort of doctor / I don't know, mad scientist played by Willem Dafoe, who is looking after her. What this movie is about, though, is about this woman who very rapidly sort of like grows into her sense of like where she exists in the world and her sense of how she interacts with the world and her sense of being in a way that is truly remarkable. Emma Stone is killer in this. I love seeing her in just about anything, but she gets to, this is one of those performances where every single scene she has to play a slightly different character than the previous scene, and I think she does so with grace. This is the funniest thing that Mark Ruffalo's ever done. He is just an absolute force of nature here in a way that I think he often gets tapped to play more of like the straight man in things, and he is definitely not tapped to play that here. This is a weird movie, but it's also Yorgos Lanthimos movies can sometimes tend to have like a sort of a cynicism to them, and this doesn't. This has like a sense of like optimism to it. I think I described it as this is like if Yorgos Lanthimos stole some of the kind of bizarre optimism of like a Michel Gondry film. And injected it into a story. That's kind of what you get here. It's one of my favorite films of the year. You will, unless I have an absolutely stellar next 12 days, this is one we'll 100% be talking about when we do a special list at the beginning of next year. So Poor Things is really, really good. It's something special.
Will, did you see this at Fantastic Fest?
I did not. This was not a Fantastic Fest.
It was
film.
not. Okay.
No, I had a screening for it. We had a press screening here in November. So I got to see it there. But no, Saltburn was a Fantastic Fest one.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah. A Dream Scenario, though, the Nick Cage one. A couple others too, but those Poor Things was the one we were kind of all like hoping / thinking might be on the list. The one that's like when you're at a festival and everyone's kind of thrown out there like, what's the secret screening gonna be? I think Poor Things was the one that was most guessed for a wrong pick, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But anyways, it's a fantastic movie. Go see it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll probably end up seeing it at some point. I hope. We'll see. It's going to be busy between now and Christmas, and then we're going away, and I don't think where we're going up in the woods in northern Arizona would have a theater playing Poor Things, but I could be wrong.
We should check because there's a couple movie theaters up there. Maybe they've got it. I don't know.
Yeah. They generally stick to the mainstream, but we'll see.
Yeah.
You may be going to see Aquaman instead.
Well, I'm pretty sure we're going to see Aquaman. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Will, thank you so much for your butt plug as well. For me this week, I'm actually going to butt plug a TV show. that is new to me, but has been around since 2005. I recently watched the Ahsoka show on Disney Plus. It's just called Ahsoka, not the Ahsoka show, but whatever. But one of the actors on that show that I really, really appreciated has also unfortunately recently passed away. Ray Stevenson, who was also really great in RRR. If you remember him as sort of the antagonist of that film, I was really impressed with Ray Stevenson's acting in Ahsoka, and I wanted to see more of him. And some folks on Reddit had called out this show on HBO from 2005 called Rome. And apparently, a lot of people have seen it, loved it. I'd never even heard of it. I totally missed the boat on it. I'm about 3 episodes into the first season right now. It's only got 2 seasons, and my understanding is the show like deliberately goes out on a high note, like before the downslope that a lot of shows experience. But I'm 3 episodes in, and as kind of a history buff, we watched Napoleon a few weeks ago. And I'm like, well, fuck, Napoleon should have just been Rome, because like this is actually good. Like this knows how to tell a story. And three episodes being about 45 minutes. So far, it's still less than the runtime of Napoleon. And I feel like I've gotten to know 12 characters really well, as opposed to like the one character I barely got to know in Napoleon. Anyway, this isn't about dunking on Napoleon. It's about celebrating Rome. Ray Stevenson, I think, is fantastic on this show. It feels a little weird to say this for someone who's passed away, but he's also super fucking hot in sandals and a robe, like a Roman attire thing. That's kind of fun to watch. But there's some fun actors in this from Game of Thrones, and it's weird to see them. I know it's weird to see them like 10 years younger. Not like main characters from Game of Thrones, but like Tobias Menzies, who plays Edmure Tully, Catelyn Stark's brother, is one of the major characters in this. Ciaran Hinds plays Julius Caesar, and he played Mance Rayder on Game of Thrones. The northern wildling guy. So anyway, great show. Obviously, very much a period piece, but it's telling the portion of history where Julius Caesar goes from being much beloved to becoming one of the most hated tyrants of Rome. And I'm totally digging it. So late to the party, I guess. But thanks, HBO, for always having your great catalog of shows available to check out 20 years later.
Awesome. I didn't realize it was like that many years before Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I actually thought it was like a new show that was parroting Game of Thrones. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Nope. It's an oldie. It's an oldie.
Awesome.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We had a great discussion around Wonka. Jim, Will, it was fun to celebrate 11 years of doing this with you guys with a fun discussion, as always. I think the bulk of our like rah-rah celebration is going to be for episode 500, which is coming up in just 6 episodes. We're getting pretty close to that. So be on the lookout. Yeah. We may have some fun things coming your way to help us celebrate a big milestone for us. But just again, a sincere thank you for tuning in week after week, year after year, 11 years later. Means a lot to us. We just do it for fun, but we love that you enjoy the show and you've hung around with us for so long. So thank you for that. Just a little bit of a heads up. So relative to recording, Christmas is next week. The 3 of us celebrate the holiday. We are going to be off doing things with families and traveling and seeing movies. And so we're not going to be recording next week, but we will be back with you on Tuesday, January the 2nd, 2024. Oh my God. I can't believe it's going to be 2024. Shit.
I got to get used to typing a new year now.
I just got used to typing 2023.
You have to train those fingers not to go to that 3 at the end of the year, right?
You really do. Really do. But for our January 2nd, 2024 show, we're going to be catching up with all the things that we're seeing over the holiday break. So I imagine we'll be talking about things like The Color Purple, Aquaman.
Iron
what the-
Claw.
Iron Claw.
Oh yeah, Iron Claw.
Yeah,
I mean,
I just looked, by the way.
did you?
We do have Aquaman and Iron Claw. We do not have Poor Things, but
Okay. Well, at least we
that
can
and
see
Migration.
those. Oh God, no. No.
I told you I want to see that one, but whatever.
No. I mean, you want to see Migration?
I kind of do.
All
Cute
right, I'll see
ducks.
it with you.
What could
I'll
go,
see
what
it
could
with
go
you.
wrong?
I'll see it with you. I'll see it with you.
Yeah.
But then we're going to be back the week after that as well, January the 9th, with our top 10 of 2023. So get your top 10 lists, everybody. Get them ready. Get them, in shareable form. We'd love to see what your lists look like as we count down ours as well. All right. If folks want to chat with us between now and 2024 in the new year, let's tell folks how they can do that. Jim, where can people interact with you online?
Yeah, you can find me, all my movie ratings for 2023 so far, and I'm sure going into 2024 are on Letterboxd, the app or the website if you access it by computer. It's called Letterboxd. That's with a D on the end. And my handle on there is at JJP Out West. You can also find me on Facebook under my name, Jim Pugliafico.
All right. Thanks so much, Jim. And Will, how about for you?
So find me on Facebook. Look for William Lindis. Look on the other apps at some variation of the Movie Bear. My favorite is Letterboxd for the reasons that we've all mentioned here. It's where we're tracking and talking about movies and connecting with people about film. But I'm over on Blue Sky. I'm on TikTok. I'm just around. So just come find me. Say hi.
All right, excellent. Thanks so much, Will. We've got a comment in the live chat from the devastatingly handsome James. Hey, James, so great to hear from you. James says, appreciate the effort y'all put into the show and the articles that you share. Jim, Will, I probably don't say this enough, but I agree with James. The thoughtfulness and energy you bring to these conversations is amazing. Jim, you tirelessly edit the show for us. It's so appreciated. Will, you do artwork and you write some wonderful reviews of some of the press screenings that you see. And I just want you to know this holiday season, I'm especially grateful for you guys and all you put into the show.
Aw.
It's something that, we, I think, enjoy doing a lot, but let's be real, it is some work sometimes. So James, it means a lot that you call that out. And Jim, Will, just thank you so much for all that you do. I appreciate
Well, and
it.
Brad, behind the scenes, the thing that I think that you do that I think is really important that people don't get to see is I think a lot of people think that when it's time to record, we hit record and go, but there's a lot that goes into sort of getting this bridge set up, which most of the time it's if something's not working or there's a tech issue, Brad's been working on it for 15-20 minutes before we even get going each day. So I appreciate you too, Brad.
Wow.
It takes we are a we're a table with three legs, right? And we're all kind of holding this thing aloft. So thank y'all for being table legs with me.
Oh, Captain, my Captain. So are you the Steed or the Ed Teach Blackbeard of this
Oh my
this
God.
band of gay shipmates?
Well, obviously, I'm the gentleman's podcaster.
Oh, you're the Steed.
I'm the
You're the
Steed. I'm the
Steed.
Steed. Oh goodness. Well, I
Will, do
can't.
you watch that show?
Who's the Blackbeard?
It's Taika Waititi.
Well,
No,
but on this show, it's probably Will with your
Will's
luxurious.
Will's the Blackbeard.
Yeah.
Personality-wise, though, you're not.
Black-
I'd probably be the Blackbeard.
I think you. I think you would be, Jim.
I'm the grouchy, murderous one. Yeah.
All right, everybody. We will see you all next time we do this. But in the meantime, have some wonderful holidays. Please be safe. Have an amazing time. And we'll see you all in 2024. Take care, everyone. See ya.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays. Bye-bye.